Welcome to our Beer Tasting 101 class. We're going to cover a few things today to get us started on our beer tasting journey. Today, we're going to cover the basics of the main ingredients of beer, how it's made, and how that influences the flavor. We're going to talk about the categories that beers fall into, how to get ready to judge a beer, and then we're going to talk about how we can take what we're learning and turn it into a full description that could be used in any magazine review. So let's start by taking a moment to think about what you do know about beer. If you're working with a partner, share a couple of facts that you already know about beer, or what you like about beer. Make a note of your favorite beer, or even your least favorite beer. Put that in the class discussion forum. We're going to get back to those, and we're going to learn to describe what it is that makes you like or dislike them. So the main ingredients of beer: water, yeast, barley, and hops. When we boil that barley in the water, we're going to get an oatmeal type of soupy mess. The technical word for this is the mash. When we strain the liquid out, we call it the wort. It's basically sweet and sticky oatmeal water. Except beer isn't usually sweet. It's bitter. That's where our next two ingredients come in. Yeast. Yeast is the machinery of the beer. It's the machinery of wine or any alcoholic beverage. It's a living organism that eats sugar, and it converts the sugar into alcohol and CO2. Yeast does this job between 10 and 25 degrees Celsius, and it takes its sweet time to do it. After 5 days, a mixture of wort and yeast will be foamy and smell like carbonated oatmeal. And it'll keep doing its job for the next few months. If you drink the beer before it's ready, you'll get the unmistakable flavor of the yeast or raw dough. The longer you wait, the more that flavor will settle and be overshadowed by the other ingredients you've put into the beer. So there's a couple of things we can do with yeast to make it behave differently, depending on the flavors that we're looking for. Using a very light wort and a yeast that sinks to the bottom of the barrel, keeping it at a cool 10 degrees Celsius will give you a lager. That's a light, refreshing summer beer, the kind that goes down like water on a hot summer day. Coors Light, Foster's, Heineken, Corona, all examples of lagers. Something to note is that it takes longer to make a lager than our next category. That's because the lower temperatures that slow the yeast down. It doesn't reach as high of an alcohol percentage for the same reason. Using more and sometimes darker wort, or a yeast that sits on top of the barrel at a warmer temperature, like between 20 and 25 degrees, is going to give us the other category with the most variety. Those are ales. Ales show up in a range of colors and flavors, from the unmistakably dark Guinness to the brown ale or to a pale ale or even a Pilsner. You can also find IPAs in this category. With that variety, we're going to spend the majority of our time getting to know ales. So now I've mentioned a fifth ingredient in beer that we haven't actually added. That's the alcohol. So with that, I would like to remind you that alcohol in sufficient quantities can impair your judgment. So before getting into the tasting portions of our course, please ensure that you've taken measures to ensure that you don't have to drive or operate heavy machinery, and that you won't be calling your ex. Now, one more ingredient that I haven't mentioned is hops. Hops serves a few purposes in beer, and brewers are recognizing that fact with an ever-increasing variety of hops that are available. Hops are a natural preservative for beer. It keeps it from spoiling, much like a lemon juice will keep your guacamole from turning brown. Hops will keep beer tasting fresher for longer. It also adds bitterness to the beer. In extreme cases, brewers add so much hops that you can't help but pucker up with each sip. Okay, we've already covered the two main ingredients of beer, or the two main categories of beer, lager and ale. Ales are also broken down further into a number of categories, such as pale ales, IPA, wheat beer, stout, porter, and one of the more recent trends, sour beers. We're going to try some of these over the next few sessions, but we're going to talk now about what features go into beer, or what features of beer go into a full description. Have a look at the downloadable tasting sheet. Over the next 3 sessions, we'll go through each category one by one and discuss what these descriptions mean. Professional beer reviewers gain their skill by writing as much as they do from tasting. With the 10 categories and 67 adjectives in our tasting sheet, we have enough information to write a detailed review of any beer. At the end of this course, you should be equipped to write a detailed review of whatever beer comes your way. Remember that taste is subjective. What you taste is what you taste. Taking a moment to be mindful when you drink a beer can be quite calming, and many people have taken up the hobby for exactly that reason. So there's no tastings in this unit, although I've already decided to start tasting. Just some thoughts and ideas to consider. You can go through the reading, which is what we've just covered, and then test your knowledge with the Kahoot game on the link below, and then move on to the next unit when you're ready.